Welcome back. You're listening to Fair and Balanced with Kevin Barrett. I'm on the web at truthjihad.com. And today I'm taking a slight detour from my usual interviews with 9/11 Truth usual suspects to speak with a leading Islamic scholar. His name is Imran Hosein. I went through his very impressive resume in the first half of the show. I'll also mention that he's the author of Islam and Buddhism in the Modern World, which got great reviews from all sorts of people. And he's also the author of Jerusalem and the Quran. His most recent project has been a series of books about Surat al-Kahf, the Surah of the Cave, a very interesting chapter of the Holy Quran. And the one that I've been reading is called Gog and Magog in the Modern World. That's his most recent book, and it deals with what Christians might call end-time prophecies and political spin-offs like the New World Order, what's really going on in the world today and so on, from a very informed Islamic perspective. So, again, it's an honor to have you on, Imran Hosein, and maybe can you tell us a little bit about your process of learning about these Quranic references that you're applying to today's political situation? How did you go about studying these in the first place?
In fact, all religious scriptures, I believe, speak with a similar voice in speaking about people who have eyes and yet do not see, who have ears and yet do not hear, who have hearts and yet do not understand. This is in the Quran, it's in the Bible. I believe you would probably find it in the Hindu scriptures as well. And what it directs attention to is that we have a source of knowledge which is other than that of sensory perception and rationality and external observation. It's an internal source of knowledge. The heart can see and the heart can hear, the heart can understand. But the heart will only understand. This is a unique epistemology that comes out of religion. The heart will only understand when the Creator who created us from a drop of sperm, when He finds faith in our hearts, and then He puts light into the heart, and the heart will now be able to see what otherwise could not be seen, and to be able to understand and penetrate beyond external appearances to reach the reality of things. The scriptures also speak of an age that would come in which appearance and reality will be completely opposite from each other. And when appearance and reality are opposite to each other, then if judgment is passed basically on an examination of external appearances, then judgment will always be wrong. And this is precisely what has happened in the case of 9/11.
It certainly has. On the other hand, when we look closely at the external appearances, that is scientifically at, for instance, the details of the so-called collapse of the World Trade Center, it's clear to even empiricists like the theologian David Ray Griffin what happened.
Well, you've got to penetrate beyond the propaganda and the information blitz which supports the case for the explanation given by the U.S. government. That's the world of appearance. Very few there are who will penetrate beyond that and seek to get to the reality of what has happened. And that is what has been happening now over a few years. I was in New York on 9/11. In fact, I was at Kennedy Airport on that morning. And from Kennedy Airport, I had to go to LaGuardia. And when I reached LaGuardia, the airport was closed, and I was told that all the flights were canceled, but I didn't know what had happened. Later that morning, as the news started to come out, then we learned about what happened. And because I had been studying the subject for my book, Jerusalem and the Quran, I was able to very, very quickly, within days, realize that there was a parallel between what happened on 9/11 and what had happened in the summer of 1914 in Sarajevo, that an act of terrorism occurred in Sarajevo a monstrously evil act of terrorism, but it was pre-planned, very carefully pre-planned. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand had been assassinated in Sarajevo. And the footprints, which were, of course, manufactured footprints, the footprints led to Russia. And as a consequence of those manufactured footprints, war was declared on Russia. Austria-Hungary declared war on Russia. And then Britain and France came to the side of Russia. And then Germany came to the side of Austria-Hungary, and the whole big war came out as planned. Germany had to be cut down because Germany had become too powerful a country. And in the process of that war being pursued, the First World War, the opportunity came for the Holy Land to be liberated from Muslim rule, and for the Jews to be able to get from Britain that Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration could not have come without the First World War. So if you are able to penetrate beyond external appearances, you'll be able to see a reality. You'll be able to see a pattern emerging in the world in which you would see a movement towards world government. A movement towards one people dominating and controlling the whole world. And when that occurs, when the state of Israel takes over as the ruling state in the world, which is around the corner now, then a man will emerge who will rule the world from Jerusalem and who will declare that I am the Messiah. But he won't be the Messiah. He will be the false Messiah, or what is called the Antichrist. That's the difference between appearance and reality. 9/11 was not the first and it won't be the last act of terrorism, which was perpetrated in pursuit of that goal.
Now, what is your source for the information that the Antichrist or Dajjal will arise and impose world government from Jerusalem under Zionist Israeli rule?
Well, first of all, we have to go to the Quran, and even when we study the Quran, we have to apply internal, intuitive, spiritual insight to our study. Secondly, we have to use a methodology of study in which we will not seek to get meaning of a single verse standalone or in isolation, but rather take the totality of verses pertaining to the subject and seek to understand them as a whole, seek to build the system of meaning which links them all together as a harmonious whole. When we do that, then we find in the Quran the identification of a town. The Quran speaks of a town which was destroyed by Almighty God. And after he destroyed that town, the Quran does not identify the town. That's our homework. After he destroyed that town, the people were expelled, and then they were banned from ever returning to that town to reclaim it as their own. You could come back as tourists, but you cannot return to reclaim that town as your own. Christians who are listening would probably already recognize that town. The people, however, would return to reclaim that town as their own at a particular time in the process of unfolding of history. And that is when Almighty God himself now releases into the world people whom he created, but who were given extraordinary power, almost indestructible power, but who would use that power to oppress, who would use that power to corrupt and to destroy, and who would use that power to bring those people back to that town to reclaim it as their own.